Hey everyone, welcome back to my Christmassy living room. So if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you probably saw my ridiculously extra, over-the-top, overboard cat house that I made out of some boxes that we had around the house. It started as a personal project. I just wanted to kind of like get lost in a project and not really think about anything. If you watch my art videos, then you probably will know why, but I'm not really going to get into that this video, so just know that I just wanted to get completely lost in a project and not have to like worry about like getting the right angles of filming it and stuff. And really it started off as a project where it was just like cut some triangles into the box flaps and then tape it together and you got a cat box. But of course, being me, I took it to the next level and I started like cutting out shingles and painting like the siding and added a porch, and I just couldn't help myself. I ended up making it look like a shotgun style house from here in New Orleans, like a really colorful one. That was my goal anyway. So I'll probably post some photos of it like right up here. Thankfully, after working on it for so long, the cats liked it. It would just be perfect if I worked so hard on this thing and then the cats like completely ignored it. But once I finished it, I was suddenly hit with that like kind of guilt and disappointment that I didn't film it. Like I kind of was like, man, I should have just done it. I should have just filmed it because I really like how it turned out and I would have loved to show you guys how I made that one. But I decided to do the next best thing and show you guys how to make a completely brand new one. I'm not going to make it into like a shotgun style house today. I'm going to stick with the December holiday theme and make a gingerbread house. I thought that that would be really cute. So yeah, let's get started. You'll need a cardboard box, some more cardboard, wood glue. Initially I tried hot glue, but it just did not work out that great. And then I tried Elmer school glue, but that also didn't work out. So finally I tried the wood glue and it worked out really well. Tape, a box cutter or X-Acto knife, scissors, a marker, and paint and other things to decorate the house. On the side of your box that you want to be the front, mark the midpoint of the flap. This flap was kind of big, and I wanted the angle of the roof to be less steep, so I measured about 6 inches up from the fold, and from that point I marked down diagonally on either side to the edge of the flap where it folds. If your box flap isn't as big, or you just don't mind a steeper roof, you don't have to do this. For the first cat box house that I made, the flap was the perfect size and I just marked diagonally from the top midpoint to the bottom edge. Repeat marking this on the opposite side of the box. Cut along the diagonal lines and you should have 2 triangle flaps now. Fold the other intact flaps in and tape them to the triangle flaps like so. Draw all of the door and windows. You can do whatever kind of style you want. With this one, I did one door in the middle of the front of the box with a round window above it, and then 2 windows on either side. I didn't do anything to the back because I plan on having this house up against the wall, so that side won't be seen. And then cut all of them out. So with the other house that I did, in order to make it have more of a shotgun style, I did a door off to the side and then a tall window next to it. I've also seen where people cut the door and then leave one edge connected and then paint it as a door. But then they leave it open so that the cat can come and go. I feel like that's really cute too. For me, I left the bottom edge uncut on the door, applied glue to it, and then pushed it in, gluing it to the floor of the house. I'm planning on putting some kind of bed or even just folded up blanket or something in there on the floor, so I knew it was going to be covered in the end. Measure the width and slope of the roof. Cut 2 pieces of cardboard that are the width plus about 4 inches by the slope plus about 2 inches. Here you should tape the 2 pieces together, with the hinge being what will be the top point of the roof. I ended up doing this later. This just helps the roof stay in place so that it doesn't slide down whenever you go to glue it. Apply glue on the flaps and along the edge of the triangle flaps, and then place the roof over, leaving a 2-inch overhang on the front and back. My roof piece wasn't making a lot of contact, so I used some tape to help hold the pieces together while it dried. While you're waiting for that to dry, cut out some shingles. The ones I did started as a 2x3 rectangle that I rounded the corners on one side. If you have a paper cutter that can handle cardboard, I definitely recommend using it. It helps a ton. For my house, I ended up needing about 120 shingles, approximately 60 per side. Of course, as with all parts of this project, you can customize it as you see fit. You can make the shingle smaller, bigger, square. You could totally omit them and just paint them on later. Glue the shingles on, staggering each row. If you get to the end and the shingle hangs over, simply just cut off the excess. For me, we recently got this big box that had these corner cardboard pieces, I guess to help protect the piece of furniture we got. Anyway, it was really sturdy, so I decided to use that and glue it to the top of the roof. I think it gives it a nice finished look. I also think it might make it a little bit sturdier. I'm not really sure. If I didn't have these pieces, I would probably just cut another piece of cardboard that kind of looks like it and glue it on the top, just to finish it off. Now add some trim to the windows and the door. For the circle window, I traced the window on a piece of cardboard and then eyeballed how thick the trim should be. Then I cut it out and glued it. For the straight door and windows, I cut strips of cardboard and then cut them down to size and glued them in place. I used pieces of tape to help hold these pieces down while the glue dried. And there you go, the base house is complete. From here, you can decorate it as you see fit. You could just start painting it now if you wanted a more normal looking house, but you know this one isn't going to be normal. Now it's time to start cutting out the gingerbread house decor. First up, candy canes. I sketched out a candy cane roughly the same height as the door, cut it out, and used that one to trace and cut out another one. I set that aside to glue on later. Then, to mimic the piped royal icing that holds the gingerbread together, I took some long pieces of cardboard, 2 inches by the height of the house, with the corrugation running up and down. I folded this in half along the corrugation and proceeded to cut along the edge, making these little bumps, I guess, because that gives it the kind of piped royal icing look. I repeated this for each corner. Then I glued them in place, using more tape to hold them down as they dried. Cut out 2 more pieces, about 1 inch by the measurement of the slope of the roof. Along the edge, I cut the same shape like the corners, and then glued that down. I cut some more similar to this, the same width of the door trim, and glued that at the top of the door. And then I repeated this for the windows on both sides. Then I glued the candy canes on either side of the door. I cut up a bunch of little gumdrops to line the bottom edge of the house, and then I cut a thin strip with a wavy edge to glue on the bottom of each gumdrop. Initially, I started to glue these down. I decided I wanted to try something out, so I ended up removing the ones I had already started to glue down. I made 5 for each side and then 2 for the front. Then I decided to make a wreath. I wanted it to go around the round window, so I cut a circle, a tiny bit bigger than the window's trim, and then I glued leaf shapes onto it. I finished with a cardboard bow at the bottom. Then along the roof, on the front, I cut some icicle strips and glued these in place. And finally, I cut 2 circles and glued them above each candy cane. When that's all dry, it was time to paint. If there's no marking on your box and it just looks brown, then you can skip this step, but obviously I have writing all over my box, so I did a coat of white all over as a base. For the gummy drops, I painted them all colorful, and then sprinkled on clear glitter while the paint was still wet to give it the sugar-coated look. I also painted the wreath. I did dark green and then dry brushed a lighter green on top, and then I painted the bow red. I painted the whole house light brown, and then I did the roof shingles and trim a dark brown. And then the rest of it got painted white. One thing I did on both houses that I feel like really pulls it together is that I outlined everything. For the dark parts, I just used this dark paint straight out of the bottle. But for the white parts, I mixed a tiny amount of the dark paint into some white, making a kind of light gray color. I wanted my shingles to look like those round chocolate drops that have white sprinkles on top, so I dotted each shingle with white. As always with the roof, this part took forever. With all of the candy cane pieces, I painted red diagonal stripes. This is where it finally started to come together for me. Then I glued on all of my gumdrops, and then I glued the wreath onto the front window. That was supposed to be the finishing touch, but in the last second I thought that the roof was missing something, so I cut out a bunch of circles, painted them like little candies, and then glued them along the top. And finally, it was done. You can leave it empty, but I chose to fold up a blanket and stuck that in the house. For the other house I made, a pet bed fit perfectly into it, so I carefully stuck that in. Then all that was left was to place it next to the tree and cross my fingers that my cats liked it. It was a little bit iffy at first. I think they were confused because the other house was in this spot before, and then suddenly there was a way more festive house in its place, but eventually Gremlin decided to move in. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As you can see, thankfully our cats love the house. It's gonna look kind of out of place when it's not December, but maybe it's something that we'll only bring out in December, I don't know. If you did like the video, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all of that good stuff. You can follow me on all of my social media, which will be linked down below. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much to my patrons for helping me produce this video. If you like my videos and have learned something from them, please consider supporting me on Patreon to help me continue to make them. It's totally optional. I'll still be making videos either way. It just helps me be able to put out better stuff. A link will be down below, or you can just click up here in the corner.